Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Welcome to part 2 of working on my Austrian pine. In part 1, I worked on the 2 lower branches, getting them pruned up, needle thinned, and ready for spring. Here is a look at the Austrian pine. So I've worked on these 2 lower branches, and they're looking good. You can see the structure of the branches. I'm not going to touch this one branch here. I want it to, you can see on the trunk here, it goes from thick, then there's a bulge, and then it goes skinny, and then it thickens up again. So if I let this branch grow, I'm hoping it helps thicken up this section of the trunk. So this is the one branch I won't be touching. I'll just leave it with all its needles, let them extend, and hopefully fatten up that area of the trunk. My objectives of this tree is to slowly overcome the flaws of the tree, trying to create a nice natural looking Austrian pine. On the top of the tree I have 2 sacrifice branches growing, one at the back and one at the front, and I'm trying to thicken up the overall trunk to try and smooth out the bulges in it. So all the vigorous growth should go in these top sacrifice branches, which will eventually be cut off. So I'm hoping to overcome the defects of the trunk, the bulges and skinny areas, by those sacrifice branches. The rest of the branches, as these sacrifice branches gain strength, the lower branches should get a little weaker, which will keep them nice and compact. So I'll keep the lower branches pruned like I'm doing now, and let these sacrifice branches grow, and they may have to grow for many, many years. And I've been thinking about the overall height of the tree. I don't mind if this tree gets larger. So if these sacrifice branches grow, it's going to thicken up the trunk overall. So I'll see about the height. I could grow the tree larger if I wanted to. There's no problem with that because it's still quite a small tree. It's in a mica pot at the moment, and I have a nice larger clay pot for it. So in spring I'll be repotting it into that new pot. By repotting the tree into that slightly larger clay pot, it should invigorate the tree, give the roots more room to grow, and those sacrifice branches should grow with even more vigor. If the sacrifice branches aren't working at smoothing out the trunk, then my last resort is to go in and start carving the bulges, creating areas of dead wood that the trunk will heal over, and hopefully I can carve it so it heals over nice and flush and helps the taper of the trunk. I'm going to continue the work, needle thinning the branches, doing some pruning on the branches. So I'll start with this branch right here. Here's a look at that branch. So I have a lower branch here and then one growing above it. So I'm going to prune off the one above it. So I'll just rough cut it so I can see what's going on here first. So there's that branch, so I can come in now, prune it off like that. Back buds are good, but I don't like them on top of the branches. I prefer the back buds to be at the sides or underneath the branch, so I can continue the branches horizontal or weeping. So that cleans that area up quite nicely. There's another shoot growing in between these 2 branches that I'll remove. Like that. So now you can see the base of the branch quite clearly, and the foliage is out closer to the tips. There's a better look at that branch, so that's the shoot I removed that was sticking up, keeping my more horizontal branching here. So I've got a lot of confusion at the tips here. You can see it's just a mass of needles. You can't see the branches. So I need to thin this area next. And it's just like working on junipers or anything. The more you thin, the more you can see the branch structure. So it's just a matter of working away slowly, carefully, keeping what you want to keep and removing what you don't. So here I have a branch growing in a good direction, and then I've got this bud coming up that's above it, so I'm going to take that one off. Like that. Cleaning out this branch structure. Back buds are good, but you have to do your shoot selection and your branch selection. Otherwise you get too much congestion and you'll get some ugly looking branches. You'll get those thick knobby looking branches at the tips. So to keep a graceful flowing branch, you have to remember to always look at your branch structure. And it's just like pruning any other tree. You want nice flowing branches. Generally, I mean, some pines you want very angular branches, but the general flow of the branches is very similar to a deciduous tree. So here's another case. I have a branch underneath and one above, so I can take off the upper branch here. It's already getting a little knobby in this section. So here comes that upper branch. Taking it off like that. Keeping the one that was growing underneath here. I'll continue working away on this branch and then we'll come back and see what it looks like when it's all thinned and pruned up. I have got that branch all pruned up now. So there it is. You can see the structure of it quite clearly. I had to take quite a knuckle off here. There was a cluster of buds just popping out. There's like almost 10 buds all in one area, and it was thickening up. You can see there's a bit of a knuckle on this one. So once that strengthens up, I can reduce that knuckle back a bit. But yeah, that's another branch all pruned up. So the next branch I'm going to work on is this back branch here. You can see it's very dense. Needs a lot of cleanup. The next branch is all pruned up. And I made a lot of hard cuts on this branch. There was a lot of areas that were just getting too thick and not flowing. So you can see it's been reduced quite a bit. There was a few ends where I'd hard pruned the tree back. And then I got back buds, so I pruned off the long kind of dead stubs at the end. So it looks a bit what's the word? Stubby at the moment. But, you know, as these shoots extend and grow, it should look a little more of a graceful branch. So let's have a look at the tree now from the front, just see how it's doing. Here is a look at the tree from the front now. I think it's progressing nicely. I'm enjoying this process of clip and grow on a pine. I think it's working quite well. I'm happy with the clip and grow on the pine. So my next branch, I'm skipping that one that I want to thicken up, that one here. So I'll go to the one above that. So here is the next branch I'm working on, this one here. And you can see, it's looking good. Needs a lot of thinning. There's a lot of upright growth I can take off. So that's kind of the before. It's just a thick, dense branch with lots of needles. I have got that next branch pruned up here. I took a fairly major branch off here, replacing it with one that's a little flatter, kind of thinning that branch out. That branch I was going to leave alone. I did do a little bit of pruning on it, removing some of the vertical shoots. I didn't touch the growing tips, so they'll be left to grow. But I didn't want, you know, bulges happening on the branches, so I did a little bit of pruning on it. I've worked on the branch up here also, kind of thinning that out. It's looking good. So the next branch I'll work on is this back branch here. This branch is getting very thick and vigorous. So I need to prune it back fairly hard. It's also getting too long. You can see it's the same length as the branch below it. So I think I'm going to have to hard prune the end off here. I've got some buds back further on the branches. So I'm going to take a lot of that branch off, reducing it back, thinning it out. So yeah, a big cut coming here. cutting that branch off to here. Here I go, big cut coming up. Taking that whole end of that branch off. So here's that back branch. So here's where I did that major cut, removing the upper part, leaving this bud here. I pruned this one back, all the top growth off of it. I've got some shoots back here that I'm going to leave because someday this will get cut off and I'll use these as the new branch tips. But yeah, that's got that back branch pruned up. So the next branch I'm going to work on is this one here, and it's also getting very vigorous because I'm getting quite high up in the tree and I want, you know, the branches to stay thin as you go up the tree. So this one will take a lot of pruning too. Here is that other back branch pruned up, so quite a severe pruning on it. Again, sorting out the structure of the branch. Yeah, but a lot of big cuts on it. I'm getting up closer to the apex of the tree, so the next branch I'll prune is this one. That kind of comes out the front. It's getting very, very dense. I have pruned that branch out front here, taking quite a bit off it. And once these back shoots start growing stronger, I can take this tip off here, but I'm going to leave it on for now. So that's got that cleaned up. So I'm getting up into the apex now, and as you go up the tree, the vigor increases, so you can do a little more pruning up in the top of the tree. So I'll tackle the apex, thinning it all out. There's a lot of branches up here, so some of them may get removed. Yeah, so I'll leave the sacrifice branch up here. And yeah, work away at the apex. And then we'll come back and see what the pine looks like. Hopefully it looks good. I have got the apex all pruned up. So quite a few cuts, kind of reducing the branches back. I took one branch off of here. It was kind of too crowded in that area. So these are my sacrifice branches, and there's some branches growing off the sacrifice branches which I'll leave on. That'll just help grow these sacrifice branches. You can see the buds on top are really strong looking. The sacrifice branch is getting quite thick. So yeah, it's hard to imagine what the tree will look like without those sacrifice branches. It'll look quite different. Here's a look at what I took off the tree. So there's lots of branches in there, branch tips, needles, a bit of everything in here. So quite a bit of foliage has come off the tree. Here is an overall look at the tree now. So I think the last 2 days really improved the tree. I like the branch structure. It looks good with the needles thinned. Yeah, I'm very happy with the tree. It does have, you know, that bulge on the trunk that I've got to overcome. But overall, I think it's looking quite nice. I will give you a 360-degree view of the tree. But first, let's fly in and have a look at the tree from some different angles. I'll rotate the tree around now. So here is the current front, coming around to the right hand side, coming around to the back, Coming around to the left-hand side. And back to the front. I'll rotate the tree around so you can see what the root base looks like. So I've been working on these roots for many, many years. I've always bare rooted this tree every time I've repotted it, and it's done quite well. And back to the front. I'm really enjoying the clip and grow techniques on the pine, and I think it's coming along quite nicely. That is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.